let me turn then the floor to Antonio Fernandez. And as I mentioned, Antonio, or Tone, as he's referred to, he's the founder and CEO of Grow Up and Grow Out LLC, and he will talk about his own, I think, personal experience and how that personal experience was, transformative to create this movement of and this organization, Grow Up, Grow Out. Tom, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello. What time is break?
In more or less 40 minutes.
Okay, I just want to make sure, so I keep it. So yes, could you play the video and then we'll continue with the conversation?
Sure.
We're getting stronger, we get bigger.
I got BEEF with BLOODS.
This will always live. I'm on that.
King Tone is a thug.
Fucking recording, huh? Hold that shit. KINGS, my squad.
King Tone could have changed the history of Puerto Rican young people in this city.
I was one of the few leaders that used to say, don't kill that brother. I never conspired to kill one of my own people.
Take your last breath. This shit here to the death. I'm on the rig. I'm on the rig. And all the motherfucking snakes, they got another fucking answer coming to them.
Right.
I'm on their rig.
I'm on their rig. So thank you. So, of course, my name is Antonio Fernandez. I'm known in the work that I do with young adults and gentlemen in these power groups. The first thing I've learned as an educator to the power group, which is what you've been referring to as a gang. That's the Americanized title given us to denounce our humanity. So I don't use it, and I don't let myself think that it should be stricken, right? Because what it does, it verifies the American oppression upon marketing our youth in a way to make us fear them. And when I joined a power group or a gang in the sense in the 60s and 70s, which Dave taught you, it as a Latino and as a poor person, most of our kids in the that come here for the American dream join the gang here in America. It's where they come to for the dream and find out the dream is quite different than advertised on TV. And it's quite oppressive receiving the other when he's black and brown. So it becomes a different system. And the system needs to protect itself and to give an identity to those who see themselves as part of a community. That our community changes if it changes color, if it changes its religion, if it changes things to the things you are not comfortable with that identify when you took the country from the other. When you disbranded and destroyed a whole race to make them believe you were the forefathers of this land and that others didn't inherit it. So when that, and I have to be, as educators, you frustrate, when has a conqueror or a thief or a misrepresentation of history to its poor people because they can't read and write, to make them believe the rubble that we live in was created by us, when we inherited it through the revolution of elimination of other people to become the United States of America. And that's the first thing I learned when I converted myself from addiction, from capitalistic pig, and believing misinformation to label me as a spick, as a young man that couldn't understand a language, that then I became stupid. The biggest crimes in America are not done in the street by black and brown killing each other with a gun. It's by the Justice Department, the government, and the schools teaching lies from the beginning to our children, who then later got to find out the truth through trial and error. Who was really the oppressor? Who was really bringing that oppression to their community? And what form did it come down? What drips and Chinese torture they did to us to make us believe we were again. So in this, when I got the knowledge of self and true identity through the experience of becoming a drug dealer, through the experience of trying to make it through school with a teacher who just gave up on me in 3rd grade, so I dropped out and I decided to join the economy, the misfit economy that produced this kind of thing in the corner by these people with the number spot that now is lotto, that they still got people in prison for doing the little bolitas, that develop an economy in my East New York, in that place where nobody wanted to invest, only liquor signs and liquor stores. So they stole the genius things as the other we formed to build an economy. They imprisoned us, told us it was bad, and then created lotto. This is what they do within these poor communities. And that onslaught, I seen it and I started to hate because I didn't understand my place in this system that my mother and father, 2nd generations from Puerto Rico, 4 daughters, knew English and Spanish, working hard, mother, didn't understand much, and had to go through this system of welfare and help being demised and treated just because they needed help. Then the first thing they taught my mother, to get public assistance, you got to say he don't have a father. So my father had to hide his pride and everything and say, I don't live there. I don't take care of mine to get the money, programming us for today. And when I seen it, I didn't understand it, and I didn't know who I was as a Puerto Rican. I knew the black and white movement. I got lost in this world, and I started seeking, where did I fit? And when that trial and error process, by 86, I was going to Rikers Island as a prisoner, as an addict, as a drug dealer, everything but as Antonio Fernandez, the human being who the system gave up on, who they started pushing Puerto Rican and black kids through school just to get them out the way. When teachers were liars and misinformation and didn't care how they got us out the classroom because they didn't live with us. They didn't understand us. They really didn't like us because the white kids were smarter, and that's where they belong. And that's why they went to college, to do something meaningful, not to teach the other in a bilingual class, right? Because that's what they were taught success looked like, to teach in the suburbs, not in the ghetto. That was for the hearted, for the real guy who wanted to work. So in all this, when I go to Rikers Island, and I'm confused, and my behaviors example that in the island, where I was so mad that now I lost everything, and I still was confused, how did I get here? My mother and father never committed a crime. All my 4 sisters went to high school, some to college, got married. Nobody in my family ever knew what the justice system was, but only to support them by oppressing them. I was the first one to challenge it by getting lost and then finding myself in this place where they kept people like me that were lost or sick or mentally incompetent to make it through this difficult system we were put through. And a man saw it, and his name was Mafia, and he was a Latin king. And he helped me. He understood. He taught me all this history and Latin pride, which in 92, I came home with a recognition of who was my enemy. An enemy that taught me wrong. And I didn't have to go out mad in the form of violence and take it out on another Latino or black or brown or even white innocent individual that had a business. I had to come home and challenge the system that lied to me. And in there, I learned about Lolita Lebron, the Macheteros, the Young Lords, the Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all these people that experiment in bringing social change through their evaluation of grassroots leadership. And I took that, and in '92, I came home. I started to recognize the 3 common things that oppress every gang: murder, extortion, fear. And when I was put up to the test to become a leader, I said I have to convert those 3 things to hope, opportunity, involvement, and engagement. Third grade dropout talking this shit. And in that, they wasn't preaching to me what he taught you. Instantly, I found it out. And I knew what worked and didn't because I practiced it in Rikers Island. I practiced it along my leadership. So the first thing I did, I removed those within myself that oppressed my community. And I told them the good guys hit back. And just because you sell drugs and you got it fast, you will no longer be the example to my youth in this community called the Almighty Latin King and Queen Nation, New York State Lion Tribe. Respect the brand. No one will respect it until we respect it and we start thinking, how do we fix it? So then I built a good chain of command that had the ability from top to bottom to communicate in less than 15 minutes anywhere in New York. When violence started, one of my credible messengers, enforcers of truth, peacemaker, would get there and talk to the opposition, let him know he's dealing with a person from my ship, and how could we resolve this without making it go to the next level? And usually we resolve 72% of these minor problems. Second, I enforced we needed armories, and I took all the guns out of the Latin King's hands. And I said, you don't use a gun because you gotta let us know that you know, and there's a problem, and where are you taking this without us knowing? Before you go there, you gotta bring all your tools to make that problem be resolved without violence. And lastly, I re-educated, like Dave said, of where we came from, what we were at, and what I found. And then I held like town hall meetings in each borough, each place, to start selling to my people the new dream and the new incentive that I hoped will lead us to a better place and a better future. And after they bought in, I started introducing them to their community, to the church, through Luis Barrios, who made a religious safe space where we didn't have to practice Christianity. We could practice Kingism, who in the same form serves the same master. Blue-eyed, long-haired Jesus Christ. And from there, that space, safe space, when they seen the church accepted them, they seen there was a pastor who gave me a wardrobe and put a collar on me and called me a prophet. Boy, shit started getting hot in New York. There was a revolution and a teaching being taught by the community accepting a leader that had a dream for change. And then came along White Boy Dave with his experience from California and dealing with deprived Mexican gangs and knowing where he comes from, being a hooligan. And he finds himself now with this dude telling him, yo, you want to see some shit crazy? Come with me. You remember when they used to see the prophet and they used to say, yo, fisherman, come here. You should hear this. And he came following the noise. And when he heard me, all I asked him, don't be like the rest of the educators. Don't follow in the box teaching. Young man, follow me, listen, and tell the truth, sucker. Because now I'm with the Malcolm. Good guys hit back. Don't cheat your people. Fix John Jay is one of the places selling some real crazy stuff right now in our community. It's a police college. It's not teaching good policing. It's teaching how do you enforce the law upon your own. And don't get brainwashed by these gangs. You're Puerto Rican, you're not like them. You're Black, you're not like them. Be more like us. So I got mad and he said, I'll join the party. And I said, let's go. So now we got church, we got education, we got documentation. My people were letting Dave and his undergraduates documentation by the community. And then we pursued the last dream. What is the cause that could give us a voice and a re-education to the people who we want to be, who we're trying to become before Giuliani made that uneducated, venomous statement that's come to prove the man he always was. Oh, Giuliani, what happened when he got old? Same shit when he was young. You just didn't recognize what he was doing to your people. The bigot. So now we got all this together, and then the police are killing, stopping Fritz, our community kids, in a number we didn't see under Giuliani. So the mother, Miss Bias, Miss Rosario, went to the church. The church said no. They went to the politicians. They said, we can't stand with you. Giuliani is scary. They went to their community and they said, we're too busy. We work. We love you. We support you. But we can't stand by your side. So then she went to the bad guy. And she looked for this noisy crowd that she was hearing about with Richie Perez from the National Congress of Puerto Rican Rights. And there was the last part, the community. And the mother said, yo, Tone, if you could keep this up and come with me. Everybody else has said no. Could you bring people and the kids to my rally so me and the mothers, there's 28 to 30 mothers, could start speaking and get justice? Because when we come, we never got nobody with us. And nobody comes and the media doesn't care. I said, yeah, I could do that. And in my heart, I teared because I said, this is the time, Tone. The stars has aligned. You see, most gangsters get their power with a gun. I don't flip the game on them. And then I said, let's go. On their first rally, they had more than 1,000 people. They had cops on the roofs with guns pointed at us. All mothers spoke. And everybody, Richie Perez, the activist, they were waiting to give me the mic. I finally got the mic. And everybody feared what I was going to say to them. And I went and I walked into my circle and I told them crowns up. And everybody put their crowns up. And I said, right knee to heaven, left knee to hell, let's pray for these people pointing guns at our mothers, at our fathers, at us screaming for no justice, no peace. Why have we got this arsenal pointed at us? Ain't I the bad guy? And the community saw with their own eyes who really had the guns, who really had the power, and who really was oppressed when they used their voice against injustice. When we threw our own Boston Tea Party, it wasn't something that made history to bring change. And we prayed for our enemy. And I told them on the mic, we're not here for the Latin Kings. We're not here to talk about Tone. We're here to get justice for Anthony Bias, the Rosarios, and I left home with my 1,000 members without burning, without breaking, and we did it from 94, 95 to 98. We had help, we had acceptance. So now you know where I get the knowledge of rebranding the brand because cowards tear it up. I wasn't going to destroy the almighty Latin King Queen nation like they destroyed the American Indian, like they do South Americans. I kept my name. And I wanted to show the name wasn't bad. It was the lies and the stinking thinking and the misinformation. Once we found out who we were and the power we had, we used it for good. So now in the Credo Messenger program today, and in Ecuador and everywhere, I don't mean I disagree with the both professors. It doesn't start with the education department. It starts with the credible messenger, the community understanding. Oppression leads to aggression, it leads to violence, it leads to misinformation, and somebody within them gotta stand up and speak. And once he speaks and he gets the power of respect, he brings the outside influence in that always hurt us. And he be the buffer of them relying or using him as a method to oppress them again under the signal of love, under we fix the village. And it takes this. And when we develop credible messengers within Ecuador and other places that said the same that I said, let the church in, let the community in, let's reteach each other, let's be involved. You get this ecosystem of hope, which develops the thinking and progressive thinking under the guidance of educated people telling the truth. We danced, we sing, we painted, started like kindergartens. Then we got to the table, we learned to write, we talked to the Justice Department, we got rid of that misinformation between each other. Then we got to work. Faith without actions is dead. So I tell the church, the schools this, you gather your community, you bring them information. So imagine right now, if instead of calling the cops, your school sends a King Tone, Mary Angelou Academy, morning check-in sheet, unit 748, 9 members, Genesis 6, name of scholar, reason for absence, excuse, not excuse, oh, not excuse. Yo, Terry, could you go to find Gerald in the street? His school just hit me. He needs you to find him. No guns involved, no cops involved. An ex-gangster gets blockbusted, and anybody in DC that didn't show up to those things, they're accounted for. We find them, we bring them, and we sit them with the teacher. Then we have another tool called restorative justice that we've made. And it's where we do the tradition of each community and culture, where we bring them into that place. The school got a credible messenger, it's got a mental health specialist, it's got the social worker, not the cop with the gun, not him cuffed to your little classroom, waiting till they pick him up. And we discuss the issue with the family. And then we say, how as a community, do we want to call the cops? Is there criminal behavior? Or is this something we could resolve, continue in this program? But you gotta let the felon in the school. But you don't want that because we're dangerous. We are the penicillin to violence. So now imagine you have a restorative circle, a mental health, and a credible messenger that then follows the kid in the family's life plan, where we develop a wraparound service. The kid is the excuse for our program to get in and help the family. See, we're not a program, we're a movement. Our benchmarks isn't to get a diploma, make him do this. It's about life skills and finding out what's in his heart so he can make better decisions doing what he wants, not what he's told. That people who are really fearful of losing their jobs, so are now doing what they're told to dispose the problem child in the class of 45 with one teacher with no pads and nothing to do like the kids that have. So now in DC, with this wraparound service, we have found that if you love on the youth, and then lastly, we involve these three-step process in the youth facilities in the prisons. We got credible messengers in the prison. Imagine a lifer. On the youth prison, I got 10 full-time employees walking the halls, making sure the COs don't beat them, make sure they're attending their class, make sure the eyes of the community are watching. We follow suit with the institution like the school. We're chameleons. We follow your system. We just tell you the truth about it. That's why you don't want us in there. So then after we practice this now in the youth facility, if those have to be in there, they got a big brother teaching them for 9 months. He hands them off to a big brother at the gate of the jail who has the family with the mental health specialist and the restorative justice specialist who by the 9 months were following the same team in the institution. So they know the language, they know how to fix behaviors, and they know relapse and violence happens like in drugs. And it's the difference is when he goes before the judge, it's for a lesser task. Imagine if he used to rob people, but this time he's running away from the home. Who doesn't run away from a place that isn't home? And the judge then sees a credible messenger, a mental specialist, his mother, his father. She gives him back to the community because she knows he's learning. He's just fighting and he's still, but the community's got a public safety factor to get a buffer so the cops don't come with the guns and the PO and the school saying, well, we wash our hands. Isn't that a more beautiful village? Isn't that a village playing the role that it was given? And instead of trying to do this, oh, it takes a village, but nobody in the village wants to work with us. So what good is the village? It takes a gang. When you need money immediately. When you got to get across that border because they're going to kill you at your house. It takes a coyote. What do we do with this? We go in there, we love on it, we give it opportunity to tell us the truth, and then we go and we use every tool in our tool belt as an education department, as the church, as the justice department, and we give them remedy without begging them to lock up our kids, put them in jail so we can live the American dream somewhat. Abandoning and giving our future away. So that's what Grow Up, Grow Out and CM3, the credible messengers, believe. We all got a place at the table. This coming from an ex-prisoner, gangster, beat up by the system. We need cops. They just need to be good cops. We need teachers. They just need to be good teachers. So credible messengers are everywhere. They're just not a felon. They are the person who sits in the chair that he was given, he learned for, he got educated for, and do the right thing and be bold enough to challenge bad ideas in the defense of their community and the gangster and the prostitute and have empathy for the victims of these people while they lost. So I don't want to lose that. We teach empathy and understanding that somewhere there's a victim and that you need to recognize that we hurt ourselves. And how do we get that person to forgive you enough that you could come back and you could start a new life and tell her you might never understand or forgive me for what I've done, but at least see that I'm doing something good, I'm moving on, and I'm trying to resolve and to just make it right. And usually mothers, fathers of tragic things and people give that pass to that man once he sees he grew up and he grew out and he found himself to be a man and a human before a gangster, a criminal, and all those other labels they place upon us. So that's what we do today, and I appreciate you, and I rather hear questions. So after the break, so if that's fine, that's what me and National Credible Messenger CM3 are doing. We're in 5 states and we're in DC, and it's the dream that I dreamed while I was doing 24 hours a day locked in a cell for 3 years with no human contact, for being a lookout to a drug dealer because Giuliani got so mad at me. The little mistake I made to pay rent was the excuse for him to destroy me, take me out of the picture, and use my mistake to do what he wanted to do all the time, to disengage the people. So that's when I came home changed with a plan, and I self-reflected, and I got myself to the place I am today. So look, there's a gangster with a 9th house. I live in a gated community. I got the mall across the street. I got program directors who write. I got a doctor on the payroll. This is me, 3rd grade education, because I found out who I was, and that education was part of me. It wasn't the whole of me, and that you can learn wherever you at. I just hated the people teaching me. I never had to hate learning. And once I learned that, my world changed. And I hope it does the same for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for a great presentation. So right now we're going to take, we're right on time. So we're going to take a 20-minute break. And then we'll come back with questions, the Q&A. So please hold your questions, or we'll be ready to answer them once we come back, and then we engage in a lively discussion. So I'm gonna take this 20-minute break, and I'll see you back at 12:40. Thanks. Okay, thank you all. Welcome back to our workshop, the RESCAT workshop. So this hour we're going to devote it to Q&A and to discussion, and you guys have two ways of asking questions or making any comment. One is using the chat button on your screen, right? You can write your questions over there, and I'll make sure to read it and to pass it to our panelists. And you can also raise your hand using, again, the button on the bottom of your screen. There is a reaction button. Then you can raise your hand over there and make the question. We had great presentations in the first session. So now we'll basically have some room for some questions. We have one comment I would like to read to start out, and this is from Alexandria Taveras, who said, "I don't have any question at this time, but I do have this statement. As a John Jay alumni, I'm forever grateful for my Latin American Studies professor, Barrios, Bordoni, Montes, and Aristi, coming from Sunset Park, Brooklyn. The public school I attended didn't teach me about my history as an Afro-Latina. My curiosity plus my professor's teachings have greatly influenced the way I educate my 4th graders, whom are majority Latino or are student of color. I teach as in a Title I school in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I just finished my 2nd year. Thank you for all of your thoroughly research studies and knowledge you have chosen to share with us today. A lot of pressure goes towards schools and educators of all sorts. I'm very happy I attended this panel, especially because Antonio has reassured me that I'm doing the absolute right thing in my classroom by exposing my students to a reality as people of color in the US and the truth behind these textbooks teaching. I appreciate you all. Enjoy." So I don't know if any of you want to comment, to react to that, Tom, David, or Rafa, to the comment.
Dave?
or just
Well, I'll say this, right? I'll say on the comment. Well, first, thank you, and it's humbling. And you're right. You teach the real history, the true history, not a condemning history, not to make a form of Look at what happens when you start your foundation on a white lie. They storm their own capital. They burn it, they beat it up, they go against their own saying of justice, police, we love them, and they're beating them with American flags because they believe they're privileged to do that. And if the country has seen me, the Latin Kings, the Bloods, the Crips, go for all the injustice for 200 years we have suffered, that led us to where we are, and we practice the same behavior. would any of you still be over the trauma? Because in the TV, you would have felt much different than how comfortable we are with what we saw. Because that's what our youth believe. They could do it, not us. We cannot fight because it's crime. They could fight because it's freedom they look for. And we got to fix this. We're fighting for freedoms just as much. And you're doing that, you're teaching us the true history. So maybe our fight wouldn't be with guns on guns, but what does love look like in public policy and with a community that understands the oppression it was brought under. And thank you for teaching that. And I just want to share, that's where it starts, in the classroom at 3rd grade, 2nd grade.
Thank you, Tom.